Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of This My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry, and with me this week is the boys from Tell Me I'm Wrong.
The boys are back in town.
In person.
This is the first, big guest episode I've done in person since the pandemic.
Is that a fat joke?
If it is, I'm talking about myself.
You said big guest. I mean, I'm just saying.
He's just emphasizing the clout that we bring.
Look, I went to Keeneland this past weekend, and we parked downhill from the entrance, and I was walking up with my sister, and I was breathing heavily, and
that hill is deceiving.
Well, it is. But she was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No, it's fine. I just gained a lot of weight since the pandemic hit."
You are a hard worker. I mean, you broke a sweat setting up our bikes. So.
And that's not a comment on Perry. That's a comment on how hard he works.
And the heat of the house when we first came in.
The house was cold. It
was 66 degrees.
We're recording at my house.
It's very comfortable right now.
I remember asking, Perry, do you need help? No. So I didn't offer anymore.
Yeah. None of us really offered except for Ryan, and that's just because he's
all I did was move my spot on the couch to a different spot. That's about all I offered to do.
I've moved progressively closer to you, and it's mostly because my headphones don't reach very far.
I'm at the end. I can't move anymore.
I know. I might just push you right out of your car door.
This is an arm.
So Perry's getting awfully close to just giving you face kisses.
All this is telling me is that Josh really needs to go ahead and build the podcast studio.
All this is telling me is if you didn't listen and pay for the Patreon, you really missed out on some good
If you want to spend a good $5,
it's worth it. I
this
promise.
Is the month to do it.
$5 a month. But
$5 for the whole month, and you're going to get this episode, and this episode alone is worth it.
I was going to say, if you do $5 once and then just binge listen, you can just bail at some point.
All right.
Is that what you just got to do? That's
like what Perry wants me to say.
I signed up for Discovery Plus. I'm just
Josh.
watching as much as I can on day 29.
That's exactly what I do. We're just cycling through the free trials right now.
Is Peacock worth it?
I think it might be.
Yeah, the WWE network's on there, so
don't ask
absolutely.
Us. Don't ask us. We pay for it for WWE.
Ryan, is the Peacock network?
Well, I have seen some people who were hesitant about The Office moving to it, but now it seems like they really are handling it more correctly because they're doing deleted scenes and all that stuff. So if you're really into The Office, it might be a good route to go because it's like the full, complete collection of The Office. And you have to pay to get to that. And I mean, my two favorite shows of all time are Parks and Rec and The Office. So
it also has some good movies that I don't see streamed anywhere else.
Well, and I am now leaning more towards just paying for each of the network apps because I'm tired of paying for YouTube TV or Sling or whatever. And I mostly just watch sports. So if you get CBS, Paramount or whatever, and then you also get Peacock, you can pretty much watch all the sports without having to use an antenna because our antenna doesn't work very well.
I'm a big proponent of Quibi personally. The direction I would go.
The golden arm was just chef's kiss.
I think they had to have spent $100 million on advertising.
There was some of their shows that I wanted to watch, but I wasn't going to pay for it.
Well, they didn't have The Office, so why would anybody pay for it?
They had The Office, but it was in portrait mode instead of landscape.
Yeah, it was like watching The Office on FaceTime. I don't whoever came up with Quibi. Somebody in the room needed to be like, "You realize this is stupid."
Can we talk about somebody who he has? I don't think any creative control over Quibi, but Chance the Rapper, and it's solely because he had the new Punk'd that was on Quibi.
He did,
and I don't know why,
that's still a thing.
Well, it's not anymore.
Quibi's
shut down.
I know Quibi's gone. I didn't know Punk'd was back.
Well, it was when they brought.
It was just on Quibi.
But they marketed the new Punk'd as a staple for Quibi and everything, and I was like, I mean, cool. The idea behind it is nice. They're trying to appeal to the nostalgia for the people who probably wouldn't pay for it anyway. And I was rooting for Chance. I love Chance the Rapper.
Yeah, he's great.
And then it all shut down, and my first thought was, oh no, Chance. And like he probably had very little to do with the inception of the network.
I mean,
I'm sure he did.
He probably had a contract and they bought him out or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say he probably made out handsomely.
I
on
just
that.
remember there was one thing on Quibi about like you were like an Uber driver and you picked up some dude. He's like, I just killed someone.
I just remember seeing.
I was like, I'll watch that.
There were like
I never
major
did.
A-list actors
Yeah.
that had Quibi shows, and I was
Yeah.
like, they literally must have gone so far into debt to put it out that they never made the money back.
Well, I'm sorry, but a 10-minute TV show
I know.
is just going to make me being like,
Oh, that you
what
watch
happened in minute 12?
that
Come
you
on.
watch
I
on
need
your
to know.
phone, like
in portrait mode.
no.
I mean, listen, I've got a 3-year-old. I watch a lot of stuff on my phone right now anyways. So.
I honestly feel like they would have done better if they had gone the direction of like I don't know if you saw the one that was like interactive and it like if you depending on like what you
Was it
chose,
a choose your own adventure?
it was
Yeah,
it was sort
kinda.
of that way and
Yeah.
where like you would get different
Swipe
parts of the
up
story.
if you want him to go to the club.
Yeah, and so I feel like they would have done better
Swipe
if they
right
had gone
if you want
more.
him to lose a leg.
It's got dark. Dang.
I feel like it would have done better if they had
I was
gone
going to
that
say
direction.
go to sleep in your dorm, but Perry's over here chopping people's legs
Well, you
off.
know, you gotta appeal to a broad range of.
We already heard the dorm story.
Also on the Patreon.
Yeah,
Also on
I'm
the
telling
Patreon.
you all, you
This
missed some
entire
bangers.
this
can-
entire episode is just a commercial. For
I
the
ran through a lot
Patreon.
of stories that should have lasted us a couple of years on that one Patreon episode.
Well, one of them
But
got
I can't,
cut.
I can
from
never
Tell Me
say
I'm
it on
Wrong.
our podcast anyways. So
Yeah, so if we have some TMIW listeners on here, yeah, you're going to hear some stories you may not ever hear on our show.
one of them did get cut from an episode.
And Perry's going to profit off of it.
Yeah, so
we are
$5.
great
I
businessmen.
didn't even think about that. I'm
is
making
horse,
out.
This is horse
hand over
crap. Can we
foot.
cuss here?
No,
Okay.
I mean kinda.
I mean, I almost said horse H. I'm sorry.
Horse
Horse
hit.
H. Horse H. Horse H.
Oh my god.
I
That's
guess
nothing.
Y'all three have been on the show before, but
have.
I don't know if we actually individually introduced you last time either.
You
don't
gave
care.
us
That we did.
nicknames.
We were on the live.
that was
we
on
were on
your
the live
show.
stream.
Oh, that was on our show. I don't remember. We have talked so many times at this point. I don't know
What
which one was
we
our
really
show,
have?
your show.
I know he was sensitive boy,
yeah.
and I forget what yours was.
Either Bougie or the Incident.
Bougie or this.
What is mine?
You were the underdog. Or no, you were Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Dark
Dark
Horse,
Horse.
yeah. Dark Horse.
I don't know what. Okay.
Well, you started out the show just
Winning.
You seemed hesitant.
yeah, like you weren't
That's
very
because I was always
confident.
afraid I was going to say something wrong.
Yeah.
But you
Constantly
you weren't,
like, I'm going to say something and we're going to get shut down.
You eventually gave up on that.
Maybe
You
you
start
should, I was
saying
gonna say maybe you should bring some of that energy back.
but you just weren't very confident in your arguments, and I mean, you seemed a little bit more shy. But then, like,
Isn't there a
You
Katy
started-
Perry song called Dark Horse?
yes,
Yes.
but
Yes.
you started to pick up steam, and you started to win more debates.
He ended up winning the year of 2020.
That is true.
And now Ryan has taken a dominant lead.
He hasn't taken a dominant lead.
Now,
I'm two episodes
I was
behind.
saying Joe came back.
If before last night, I was like, had I won the freaking cereal freak, I would have tied him up. But we couldn't get
Man.
a winner. No one won in
That-
that
It's
episode.
new listeners
I did.
to this My Bourbon podcast that have not heard of us before are probably very confused
Don't
by
listen.
everything you just said.
Please-
If you listen tonight,
Please
or-
don't listen to 47.
Yeah, skip 40.
Here's-
listen
here's-
to like 10 episodes
Or
first.
wait, was it 48? It's 48.
It's 48.
48.
Don't
Here's
listen
the
to
thing.
48.
Here's the thing.
47 was great. It was about a bar.
Yeah, go start with 47 if you want.
Most of my listeners, if you tell them not to do something, will go into it.
So don't
We'll start
let-
with 48.
Don't
It's the best
subscribe to
episode
our
we've
show.
ever done.
Do
And don't
not subs-
download every episode.
Do not
do
rate
it.
us 5 stars.
Don't visit our website tmiwpod.com and don't follow us on all the social medias.
Don't tell a friend.
Are we good now?
Yeah, sure. Why
I think
not?
we covered it all.
Did we cover it?
Yeah. Well,
Well, this
goodbye,
has been fun,
everybody.
Barry.
Don't join our Patreon page. We haven't started yet.
Man,
If you-
we are the worst guests. We
are.
just take over.
I don't.
immediately.
I thought
There's
that,
three
but
of
he
you and one
keeps
of me.
inviting
Like-
us.
Well, we also all three have dominant personalities.
Like, I
Like,
think-
if you split us up and we each individually were at a party, we would probably talk.
I
the
don't know
most,
that I would say Josh is a dominant personality.
depending on the scenario.
I think if Josh in this scenario he would, but
Josh
if he
is
said at a
looking
party,
very regal right
Josh
now.
is a
like
good-
we're in his court.
Josh is a good example of the introverted extrovert. And it's a unique
me.
it's a unique personality. That's true. You actually both are.
It's definitely. I am definitely.
and
that.
it's not that common really, but you're both here. And once you get to know them, they can absolutely dominate a
yeah, I can't
conversation.
get him to shut up most
Well,
times.
here's
true.
the thing. I was not so much that way until the pandemic, And then once I was given the opportunity to kind of retreat into myself, then I started to become a little bit more introverted.
I'm sure my wife wishes I was more that way since the pandemic started. Because she talks to me now more than
Anytime
ever.
Joe tries to retreat into himself, he evicts himself from his own body.
I've heard
Get
her
back out
say,
there.
we've had more conversations that end with her looking at me going, I love you, but I just don't care.
Honestly,
I feel for her because I just don't have anyone else
I
to go.
identify with that statement towards
Like,
you.
I'm like,
I thought you meant with your wife,
well, it's like,
too.
I'm telling her,
Like, not at all.
we
Joe,
bought a house.
I identify with your wife in that regard as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to do this to my garage. And she's like, I keep going. She's like,
Great.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
But I have no one else to talk to. So I'm like, well,
maybe me and Rachel should start talking when you guys talk about wrestling, because that's how I feel.
I don't feel like we talk. I don't talk with Rachel about wrestling. She acts like I do, but only if she brings it up.
Can we get a call here from our line
She
judge?
likes wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah, she's. I take that. Hold on. Let me just say this. She likes wrestling. When they get married, we'll see if it sticks.
If you have a bad day, it's fun.
That's my lovely fiance
Things
Erica in the
change
background there.
when you, the name changes. Things change.
There have been a lot
I
of
don't
life
think so.
changes for the Tell Me I'm Wrong boys over the
It's
past
true.
6
There
months.
has.
Joe, anything you want to tell us?
Joe got a new house.
I bought a house.
He bought a house.
there we
I
go.
bought
Okay.
a house that was
Like really,
Probably
we
too
did
much
the
house.
three. We did the three things.
Yeah, right.
We did the
Joe
three
bought
things.
a house. I bought a ring. Ryan bought a baby.
he got it real cheap. Inflation and unfortunately caused the price to just rise way up. But he found a good deal.
This
The,
is
the
more of
baby
a
market
Patreon-
right now is on fire.
It's more of a Patreon chat. It feels like we're going down the dark road.
Yeah, we should probably reel it in just a little bit.
Pivot.
I didn't. Shut up. I want to do a Tell Me I'm Wrong episode where I just dunk on Friends the entire time.
I mean, that's basically what we
You
do.
could
Yeah,
do
I know,
that
but
because
I
I've
hate that
never
show.
seen a Friends episode in my
Friends
life.
is
Well, Ryan
easily
thinks so.
one of my least favorite shows of all time.
That was if you listen to episode
sorry.
1 of Tell Me I'm Wrong. At the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was like, pick a house of like people you
Quarantine
Oh
house.
yeah, that's right.
quarantine house.
Man, that was
my,
episode
like,
1?
Yeah,
Episode
my,
one.
Episode
my
one.
top draft
Golly.
pick with that was Phoebe from Friends. I would hit her with my car if I saw her on the
We
street.
actually both had Friends characters in the worst quarantine house.
I would hit her with my car if I saw her on the street.
That is violent and uncalled for, Joe.
I'm sure the person who played her was nice, but
Lisa
if I saw
Kudrow.
Phoebe, I would hit her with my car.
I actually think Lisa Kudrow is probably pretty online with Phoebe. So.
Then I would hit her with my car.
All right. Well, now that that's on the record,
I'll never see her though, so it's okay.
we normally start episodes out with Flying Blind, but in this case, we're all just kind of sitting around
We are
drinking.
flying eyes wide open.
Aren't we flying blind right now?
I don't know,
No
man.
direction.
How are you feeling?
I'm tired.
As noted by his large yawn during the intro.
Goodness gracious. But we are drinking.
This is the last time I'm coming back.
We are drinking E.H. Taylor Small Batch, though,
And
which
it is phenomenal.
Joe
good.
said he has never had.
Never had
before.
E.H. Taylor.
What do you think about it?
Didn't you never had it at Matt's house?
I don't think that's one he ever gave me.
He pours it all the time. It's his favorite.
The problem is Matt pours and
That's
I just
true.
drink and I don't know what I'm
you
drinking.
might have had it and not.
I
known it.
maybe. I really like it. It's really good. I didn't pour a ton. I just had a small sip. So
If this was something that I could more easily attain all the time, I would literally just buy this.
it's got a bite, but it's very smooth.
I think it's better than Blanton's, personally.
Well,
It's
My
not.
wife
It's
just
not a
bought
full
me a
on.
bottle of Bland's. I think Bland's is amazing.
I do like Blanton's, but I just think that this is better. Ryan was trying to see if there was a
There used to be
comparison.
Blanton's over there.
no, I finished my bottle of Blanton's, unfortunately for
Josh
everybody.
is a big Blanton's fan.
I love Blanton's.
get
And I
I've
don't
obtained-
dislike it. I just think that Taylor's better.
I don't know that I've had
just-
enough Blanton's to compare.
It's got the horse on it.
No, I don't.
Guys, I'm gonna be honest with everybody. I like bourbon, but like
I can't talk about it.
I think we have been in the orbit of the Tim Bipp universe
Yeah,
enough
they know.
that people know that we don't know anything about
I don't
bourbon.
like. I have like
and
2
that
or
Perry
3
only
bottles.
has us on his show to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can dunk on me all the way. I like
knows.
to drink
I'm not
bourbon.
dunking on you
but-
at all.
But I'm telling you, you can't. your group.
But that's
did
not Perry's
on the
style.
live
But that's
stream.
not me.
That's
I
not
know.
Perry's style.
I don't
No,
condone that or encourage that
I
kind of
know.
behavior.
I do.
And I think,
encourage
listen,
it. I condone
I
it.
enjoyed it. It was fun the live stream. But I'm just saying, like, I like bourbon, but like, I'll never be like a
collector.
A collector. Like, I have 2 or 3 bottles.
okay.
Hey, it's
That's
really expensive.
Well, and if we're
It
being
is.
honest, like, and Perry will, I'm sure, maybe I'm wrong, but tell me I'm wrong. But Perry would probably back
he
this up.
said it.
I feel like most people are more like us. Like people listen to Perry because
Yeah.
they want to hear, they want to hear the details
Right.
and want to know why, why people listen to podcasts. But like, I feel like most people are like us, like have 1 or 2 bottles of bourbon in the house at the time and just, have your go-tos and then maybe you splurge on something that Perry recommends.
You
And-
go to
and-
go to
go ahead,
bars
Joe.
and restaurants in this area, and they're like, "Here's our bourbon list," and it's like 3
It's overwhelming.
pages
Yeah.
long.
It's overwhelming.
And I'm like, "How do you expect me to look at this list of 200 line items and be like, I want that one?"
Well,
Like, I'm
see-
just always like recommend something to
You
me.
listen to Tim Bip.
Yeah,
But thank you. But aside from that, it is important to have, and it's mainly out of your control depending on where you're going. But it's important to have a good bartender.
Right.
So when you are asked, what would you like to drink, and you say, I don't know, the next question should be from the bartender. Well, what do you like?
well, that's usually the progression we make. Like,
But I'm just saying, like that is the way that we all learn.
Yes, but
is-
that also puts that back on Joe to actually know what he likes.
like I really like. I'll be honest, my favorite is Woodford.
So
But I think that's also like a generic, like vanilla, because that's like the one everybody likes in this area. And
I mean, there's notes of that.
that
yeah.
was the one distillery that I toured, and like to me, it's like that's always been the one I've liked.
Sure.
And so
I also will say there's a reason that it's why it's so popular.
right.
It's good.
it's got a very broad appeal.
Yeah, and that's the point.
And what's funny about Woodford too is that so many of us on my side of things say, well, Woodford was a stepping stone before I got to the Taylors, before I got to, even Buffalo Trace to some degree.
I just went there this weekend.
Did you really?
Yeah, that's where we take our photographer has to take our family photos in Buffalo Trace.
Did you get to do a tour too? Or
No, we just went. Like we went.
Have
and
you
saw,
ever done
like,
a
the
tour there?
garden. I've not done that one. No.
it's
Rachel, my wife
fantastic.
has. My current wife, her business is working on their expansion, so she's got
That's
to go
awesome.
and check
No
it out.
kidding.
Yeah.
I think
I
I,
don't
got
know
the
if I'm-
wrong
I don't-
Robinson on the
I don't,
podcast.
actually, I don't know if I was supposed to say that.
Well, is it public knowledge the
I
company
mean,
that?
I know they're doing an expansion. I don't know.
No, Buffalo. It's common knowledge that Buffalo
I was
Trace
gonna
is
say,
doing an
you're
expansion.
talking to the right guy. Oh man.
Woo, all right. Well,
Buffalo Trace tours. I was gonna say it's interesting because it's a little bit industrial. Like it's not like there's like the Woodford
It
tour.
looks different. I've never
where-
been inside, but the outside looks different. And it's also weird. It's in a city.
right because like Woodford is like literally on a horse farm.
It's on a farm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Like-
then you've got Buffalo Trace, which I actually thought the tour was the best tour that I went on because of the tour guides. And like all of them, like I've been on 2 tours there, and both of them were so great about like going into details and having people ask really good questions. Whereas some of the other tours are kind of cut and dried.
Yeah.
Woodford is great just because it's so historic.
Yeah, Woodford's the only one I've been on. I really enjoyed it. Our tour guy was like super.
Woodford, I actually
Super, like-
I went for it was my graduation for my master's. Leah actually surprised me and was like, "Hey, I have a tour booked," and it was like it started snowing. It was like super picturesque, and then. So that is definitely my favorite tour. But I also recommend, and I'm sure Perry's talked about this before, but Wild Turkey is
that, I was really hoping that you were going to go
shockingly
there.
like I actually knew nothing about Wild Turkey when we went, and we were just trying to go to the ones that were close, and so we've been to all the ones that are easy to go to, and it was actually my second favorite tour because it's a good mix of like the old and the new world
Yeah.
of bourbon. I don't know if that's actually true. That's what it felt like.
No, that is very true because Turkey has such a storied past. Even before it was the Wild Turkey distillery, it has all these years, and this is not uncommon for a distillery in Kentucky, but it has decades and decades and decades of history and just a very firm foundation of this is the way that we do things, and we do it exceptionally well. And I think where Turkey kind of stands out from other places is the fact that the distillers are a family line, right?
Russells.
Yeah, exactly. So the Russells are just, first of all, a really cool family. Jimmy is the patriarch, I guess, if you want to call it that. He's now worked there for 60 years almost. So, I mean, he's been through just about everything that you can have been through with a distillery, especially as they were trying to carry things back up, as, you know, the popularity of bourbon was starting to wane and then wax again, I guess. But then, you know, his son, Eddie...
You just confused Joe with
I
your
was just
metaphor.
I was like, that's a moon.
Well, yeah, but what happens when
It means growing.
No, I
and
know, I
shrinking.
know, I know what it means. But also, like, if you think about it, it doesn't make sense because when a man or a woman gets waxed, what happened? They
Oh my
Joe,
gosh.
Joe.
Patreon.
you lost me along
you
the way
can
with
wax your legs. Like I wouldn't say
No,
anything.
no. I
crude,
get that,
but they're removing stuff when you get a wax. So like it's getting smaller.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but I don't say
I know. I'm just saying that I was
the opposite of that is not waning, which means adding hair to
Yes,
your body.
I know. I'm just saying, like,
Like
I
there's
know.
not,
Listen,
an
we've already
appropriate-
established I'm dumb. So
That's not what we're saying.
Yes, we have.
That's what I'm saying.
Moving on.
Anyway,
Jimmy Russell.
Go back to making your very serious point.
but I do
Eddie
think that
Russell.
Wild Turkey is a good second step in terms of a place to go and visit and do a distillery tour.
It also had the
Because
best tasting of any of the ones that I went to.
I think I would have to agree with that. Buffalo Trace is a good tasting. I don't think that it's out of this world or anything. They have added Taylor Small Batch to it, though.
I really
Yeah.
want to do the Maker's Tour, which I feel like is really generic, solely for the fact of
Maker's is amazing.
It's so cool to dip your own bottle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like
absolutely.
that is
I did
something
it.
that no one else,
done it before,
no
too.
other distillery can offer.
Honestly,
and I
like-
feel like that's a step up just to have that, and I'll pay them more just because it's like I don't have to. I did that. That's
Yeah.
my dip.
I started drinking bourbon with Makers because it's
think a
it's
lot
so,
of folks
it's
did.
so iconic. I mean, the wax is. It's one of the most well-known bourbons in America for sure. And the bottle dipping is just as cool as it looks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that they trademarked the red wax strip.
Right, exactly.
Because I mean that is their brand. That's what they rely on for people to identify their bottles. And I mean, it's not just a United States thing. It is an international, well-regarded product.
I have a random bourbon story.
Here we go.
Well, this just reminded me. So, my wife that exists, Leah. That's a joke from our show. She studied.
Can we really call it a joke at this point?
No, it's absolute fact, if we're being quite honest.
So she studied abroad in Spain during college, and she was like, whenever they were like, I don't know where they were. I think they were on a bus or something, and they got talking about bourbon. And
Oh, cool.
And so she noticed. This is just kind of random, but she noticed that most of the time you could find Four Roses like everywhere. And so she brought up. She was like, oh yeah, I've been on a tour there. You know, it's made in Kentucky, like the home of bourbon.
Yeah.
And some dude bro that was on this bus with her was like, Kentucky's not bourbon country. And she was like, what? You're an idiot. Like, of course, Kentucky. Like, she had no idea like what he was thinking. But
Did he work for Barstool?
I probably. I think this was before they existed, but I'm sure he does now.
It's the same exact guy
Yeah,
who
it's-
does the pizza
He
reviews.
Dave
eventually
Portnoy.
found his way there.
Dave Portnoy.
Yeah, it's absolutely Dave Portnoy.
he probably drinks a lot of Brooklyn bourbon.
Well, if he had studied abroad in Spain, I'm certain he would have been broadcasting that.
I don't think
very
he studied
loudly.
anything, so
you-
it doesn't matter.
Do you remember Jameson Kerr?
Uh-huh.
Okay, from Calvary.
Yep.
I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this story.
Shout out.
Yeah, I know him pretty well because he went to Lafayette too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, my
So-
wife probably knows him then.
Yeah, she does for sure.
I don't know
Yeah.
any of these people. I don't even know who's in this room.
It's
Well, that's your fiance.
How much have you had to drink?
Enough.
For now.
I think the first story I remember about Makers actually came from Jameson. And
Jameson is quite a storyteller.
I don't know why I looked at Joe thinking he was the one talking, but he had posted on Facebook that he had gone on a tour at Makers, and they were drinking a bottle as they were kind of walking through the tour, and they got to where you dip the bottle in the wax, and they asked if they could dip an already open bottle, and they said yes. Like, they allowed him to do that, or at least somebody in the group.
Is it hot enough that it doesn't matter?
Wait, so you're telling me they take requests?
Can you change the color of wax? I'm really a big fan of green. Just real quick. Just drop it in. It'll melt.
Because I'll go full Carrot Top and just
Add
start
some
pulling
yellow.
out props.
What else can we dip?
I brought this bottle of Woodford. Can I dip it?
Can I dip my shoe and it'll just be the whole bottom will just be wax?
What about an entire human leg? Is that an option?
How deep is this wax pot?
I had an actual question about bourbon, but now this is even better. So let's just keep this going.
But I don't know the point in telling that story, but it's just cool
story.
that,
Literally.
you can actually go to Makers and,
and
dip your own
For
bottle.
a request to dip anything.
I will say, if you're
I got a live frog over here.
if you have listeners that are trying to
found
try
this hunk of
Makers for the
hickory
first
on the
time,
floor.
I definitely recommend Makers 46.
Can I dip it?
It's this super rare bourbon.
Super.
This is Ryan's insider tip.
Yeah.
There's something called Very Old Barton. It has been aged. It's in the name. It's old. It has been aged.
Speaking of Very Old Barton.
One might say very old.
Yeah, I did a tour of their distillery.
Did they pay you?
No, and
I've got a story about that,
and
actually.
it was one of my favorites because at the end of it, there was a guy there who was he was clearly on a date with a much younger woman. He was like in his 60s.
Incredible.
And he like really
Shoot
wanted
your shot,
to
man.
impress the woman he was with. And so they were serving up, they did a tasting at the end. And it was just standard Very Old Barton.
Did everyone just leave?
It was just standard. They didn't even go up.
Well, they did eventually, but this was the starting point. And so we all take a drink, and I'm like, yeah, I've had this. Never not mixed with anything, but I've had it.
Tastes like sophomore
And
year.
he takes a sip, and he rubs it around in his mouth, and he's like, I taste hints of oak and hickory. And I was like, what?
I taste motor oil.
Yeah. I was like, where are you getting those
Well,
notes,
first
bud?
of all, oak. Yes. Hickory. What?
I know, that was the interesting part. He like, I think the only flavor notes he knew existed were wood-based. Because that was pretty much all of his
Applewood.
notes.
Do I taste a hint of mango?
Tastes
in
like
there as
birch.
well?
Well, and like a good host, the person doing the tasting was like, oh, maybe.
So the last tour that I went on at Barton, it was for my birthday last year. And we did the same thing. We got to the tasting portion of it. And at this point, it was a much smaller tasting. Wait, Ryan, hold on. Wait, what are you doing?
He's passing new ones.
I know.
You don't-
we've got a new
so
bar.
good.
But
He's like,
there's
don't
another
drink
one.
any more of that.
But I want you to try this Maker's
well, if
stuff.
everyone else
I'll
is
try
trying
it.
it, I'll have a sip.
Okay.
Just give me a little bit.
All right. Sorry.
Pour for yourself, Jeff.
Sorry. Very old Barton tour.
Anyway, very old Barton tour. And our tasting group was super small. Lucy was pregnant at the time, and so she didn't taste anything. And there was like one other guy. I thought you were about to pour that right into Ryan's hands. He was just cupping it like it was the water of light.
It's how we do it here.
No dishes.
And
Got splashed in your face. Wake up in the morning. You know?
welcome to Kentucky. It's our aftershave. And there was like one other guy, and maybe it was a guy and his son or something, and they had just gotten done doing their tour. And they were asking all these like in-depth questions of the lady who was doing the tasting and everything. And she just straight up looked at him and went, I don't know. I have no idea.
That's when you just look at her and go,
And I was-
appreciate your honesty.
And I was like,
Respect.
I know.
You did.
I kid you not.
You
I
did.
swooped in and I gave the answer that they had been looking for.
Oh,
and
man.
I was like, and I do a podcast. And
Yeah,
I
there it is. There it is.
And then
Promotion.
That woman hated him from that moment
No,
on.
she
Became mortal
legitimately.
enemies.
This is the only time that this actually happened to me. She looked at me and went, "Would you like a job?" It's dead serious too about it because she realized that I was outperforming her and I wasn't making money
Here's a real
there.
question. Why don't you do that?
He's got an audio tour, Ryan.
We'll talk about it off air.
Okay.
They don't pay enough.
Conversation. Well, I mean,
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it off air. Anyway,
Gonna get me in trouble.
so this makers.
wait, but before we move on from that story,
Oh, yeah, sure.
I just had the thought of, man, it must be nice to have a podcast where you can just mention it to people because I feel like because I feel like our show is not one I can just drop in casual conversation. And
Oh,
be
are
like,
you all talking about which Ninja Turtle would win a bar fight? I got a podcast for you.
Listen,
do you want to talk about which series? Wait, I probably shouldn't drop that one.
well, it's very unfortunate. I actually told this on a recent episode of our podcast because my fiance came home. She's sitting in the room, so she will testify to this. But she was at work and she was. Someone mentioned the fact that I had a podcast, and someone was like, "What are you all talking about?" And her coworker goes, "Oh, her boyfriend hosts a really weird podcast."
There it is.
And I was
You mentioned that on last week's episode.
I was very offended, but then I can't
would've
really
been like,
argue
it's-
it.
it's hard to
You're
argue.
right.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah, I realize that out of context, most of what we talk about on our podcast is just absolute insanity.
Josh, I don't think that even in context, much of it
yeah, I was
can
gonna
be
say, I don't think
considered
context
sane.
helps.
We were up talking in my boss's office the other day, and she was asking about it. She's like, "You still on your podcast?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Stuff." And she's like,
Well, see on
It
the
is
most recent
genuinely-
episode.
Genuinely so hard.
she's like,
and
well,
also,
"What kind of stuff?" I'm like, "If you really want to know, you have to go listen." I can't say.
So I think I don't know if I've mentioned this on this show, but I've mentioned it on the other show. I now have a second podcast that I do for my job. It's part of
Shout
my job. But it's
a very serious podcast.
yeah, I was going to say it is nothing like anything that we talk about here. But they are now doing a lunch and learn at UK, and they are talking about starting a podcast. And so yeah, you can see where this is going. They asked me, and I was like, I'd love to be a part of the panel. So if anyone has any tips on how to talk about tell me I'm wrong to a serious group of people at a professional setting and how to be successful doing that, I'll take your answer off air.
So what we did was we started the podcast, and this week we talked about Mr. Belding and Mr. Feeney. Which one would be the best to go on a bender in Vegas with?
Is that real?
That is this Thursday.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
It gets weird.
it's a good one.
I'm
It gets weird.
so excited for that.
It's a classic debate.
What date, time, and location is this happening at, Ryan? Because I'm slipping in the back.
It's not announced yet, but I will send you guys the Zoom link.
Okay,
because
perfect.
Considering I am like a day one fan of Tell Me I'm Wrong, and I've actually had to do that for my podcast, I could probably find a good way to BS.
I was going to say, I actually
that talk.
I might legitimately ask Perry some questions because these two, well, I was about to curse. These two guys over here, boys, are not going to be of any help.
No.
Trying to explain our show. So maybe Perry can help me.
I can't even explain
resume
it.
our show up.
Yeah, Ryan.
We answer questions that no one ever wants to have answers to, or no one ever even wants to ask.
But you've got to spin it in the
was gonna
way
say-
to where it's about entertainment.
My current
because-
plan is to be as vague as possible and really just emphasize numbers and like really, like specific things I've learned. Like be like, oh yeah, we have over 8,000 downloads and like all that stuff. Like focus on
Yeah.
that.
Well, we made a critical error when we made the podcast in the first place because like Ryan a couple months ago was like, hey, I just got my hair cut and my barber was like, hey, you should put a poster up about your podcast so people will check it out. And Ryan texted me and was like, hey, could you design a poster for us? And I was like, what do I put on a poster that's going to get anybody to want to listen to our show?
It's an excellent point because and they always talk about this when you start a podcast. It's like, okay, what's your elevator pitch? Get people in 20 seconds. Yeah. Get any listeners of our show, if you can give us an elevator pitch of our show, I will pay you.
I'll draft one up. I'll be thinking.
And Josh works in marketing, so
and I can't do it.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
That's-
Ridiculous questions, meticulously debated. This is tell me I'm wrong. That's all you gotta say.
A tagline developed by me.
Developed by Ryan.
Can I want to before I talk about this makers, I want to talk about tell
By
me
the
I'm
way,
wrong.
best one I've had so far tonight. Which
I know,
is saying
right?
something.
And you had Taylor beforehand too. I want to say something about Tell Me I'm Wrong, and I think this is the reason that I have latched on so much to what you guys do, and I am going to give you guys props for a second.
That's okay. We take the compliments. We're not like
I was
you.
gonna say,
Pedro.
we're not
yeah,
like you.
is this
I love praise.
Is this a first for someone coming on and going, you guys are doing well? But usually we just have the people complaining we're still in their show.
Yeah, I don't think Bo has ever given us a compliment.
Bo's usually hops on and is like, I got 15 minutes. Let's bang this out.
But I think this is why we work so well together, is because I believe in what you guys are doing, and I find that there is genuine. There's something real about it, and in a way that I know how ridiculous that sounds, and how hoity-toity that sounds, but I mean that genuinely, especially because when Tell Me I'm Wrong started, it was at that point in the pandemic where stuff was starting to get stale and things were starting to feel more and more depressing, and it was just kind of looking for something. I was looking for something rather that was distracting and kept me from having to think constantly about what was going on. And part of that was the fact that my wife was pregnant, and you know, our baby was going to be born in the midst of, you know, maybe and at that point it was like, maybe she's not going to know any of her family for another 6 months to a year. Right. And I mean, we've been fortunate enough that she of course has been, but you know, between that and like, how am I going to survive with a job, or, you know, what am I going to do? And it just was, you know, a breath of fresh air where I didn't feel so stressed out all the time. And I mean, things have worked out and it's been okay, but, and it's nice that it has also then become a part of my regular week as I look forward to episodes and get to, you know, spend my time with you guys, even digitally or virtually or whatever you want to call it. But
Orally.
Whoa.
AUR. AUR.
It's an auditory podcast.
Orally.
It's not like we're like a video. No, I think, Perry, like what you're saying, like to me, it's the same reason I like wrestling. Like I know wrestling is inherently fake.
Yeah.
But like it's just fun to me. It's a suspension of disbelief. Like, I just get there and I cut loose and I'm like, okay, these guys are big, they're strong, they're goofy, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is my escape for 3 to 4 hours a week. And I do listen
And
to
that's
other
essentially
podcasts.
what you guys are. It's just big, dumb, goofy guys.
I mean, well, you're not wrong. And like, there's other podcasts I listen to that like they review movies, and it's all about movies from their childhood and how terrible they are. And I laugh, and I'm like, they are so bad. Like I was listening to one on Rookie of the Year on the way here. Like,
I bet that was so much better than this.
no, but I mean, I get
Please
it.
don't
Like,
unsubscribe.
I get what you're saying. Like, it is something where you just kind of like, I don't have to be me. I can imagine myself as like someone fighting Roman Reigns and cutting these crazy promos or The Rock or whatever. And you're like, I know these people aren't real, but they're fun.
Well, and I think going back to, you know, what Perry was saying about the show, like, I mean, we don't get serious about our show very often because it's not a very serious show.
It's hard to, I feel like. I mean, considering you had an episode that came out that was all about who is the freakiest cereal mascot.
Well, we don't talk about that one.
I'm
That
going
is-
to talk about it
It's
until I have
called
no
the
breath left in my
it's
body.
That's
called-
the forbidden
I would say
episode.
it's called the forbidden episode for a reason. But to be serious for a minute about it, I mean, we have expressed to each other before that honestly, even when episodes didn't do well or like we were kind of discouraged about like the growth of the show, we just kept reminding each other like it was you know, like you said, we started it in the time when we literally didn't see anybody. And so it was a chance once a week to get on Zoom and to genuinely just try to make each other laugh for an hour. And, you know, if we were succeeding at that, then we felt like, you know, okay,
Somebody
we're
would listen.
going to keep doing
It's
this.
that old thing of like, you got to believe in your own product or
I
or else
honestly
nobody
never
else is-
thought people we'd make it past 10 episodes. I thought eventually we would record episodes but stop putting them out. Like I was like, I just don't know if we can sustain
Did you genuinely
this.
feel that though?
I didn't know if people would listen.
I did. We recorded our first 2, and I was like, this might be the only 2 we do. We don't know.
Like, it's
The
just,
only reason we kept going is because Joe spent all that money on a microphone. He was like, Rachel's going to kill me.
Rachel was like, you can buy one, but if you don't use it, I swear.
It was that sunk cost.
But like, there's so many podcasts out there and
Yeah.
so many different mediums nowadays where you can choose to like listen or watch or do things. Like, it's like, I just wondered, like, are people gonna want to listen? And like, I know like our wives and girlfriends and friends and family would listen, but it's like, I always wondered, like, could we reach people who don't know us?
I still remember there. I mean, and I don't know if she listens to the show or not, but there was the girl on Instagram that we kind of interact with pretty frequently, and it was really cool because she would start sharing our show on her Instagram, and I just remember having that thought of like, we don't know who she is, like she found us through.
If you're listening,
something.
keep doing
I
that.
was gonna say-
Justin, can you look her up and? I mean, just no. I mean, just to give her a genuine shout out because I want to make sure that we.
Yeah, absolutely. Her
I
name.
think Chelsea something. But I mean, genuinely, I think all 3 of us have interacted with her, through the Instagram account, and she's a genuine fan. She reached out to us after the Serial Freak episode and was like, "Hey, I made it through," and so it's
Much like I did,
like,
where I said I
genuinely-
didn't feel like I
and-
was all that special. Am I
Exactly.
making it to the, yeah.
Exactly. But like, and I don't mean to like call this one person out, but like, it was really like her that was like, okay, like I don't know this person. She only knows us through this podcast.
Yeah.
And that just felt really cool that she was like, she's invested, like we have a true fan. Like she's invested enough that she shares episodes of our show with her friends. And so like, that is like literally, I mean, I know you have so many more subscribers than we do.
That's
But I mean, I'm sure you still feel the same way. Where like anytime you create something and someone feels passionately about it enough to share it with people they know and say, "Hey, this is something I like."
Yeah.
it's just so humbling.
Well, I think it's great when someone comes and like, hey, I believe you're, I don't know if you want to use the word expert, but like, I believe you are very knowledgeable about this, and I've learned to trust your opinion.
sorry. That got a genuine snort out of me, and I'm not discounting
Like-
what you say, but the fact that people take me seriously because of my opinions on bourbon still blows my mind.
I think we bought you a bottle of bourbon.
Sure.
I think so.
I'm
And I
certain at some
texted
point.
you, and I was like, Perry, like,
That
what do
sounds
I
about
get?
right,
Like,
yeah.
I was like, I want to get him something that's different.
Yeah.
And like, you texted me like an hour and a half later, we were already left. But I mean, I also didn't give you much notice. I was literally in the store, like, looking at it, like, hey. So
And you went
but
with Willet.
I think I did get Willet. I don't know. I think we had to leave. And Rachel was like, pick something. But
Well, it's not terrible.
I'm really sorry that I didn't get back to you sooner than I did that
it's
day.
okay. But like,
You were big timing him. It's all
It
good.
was
I
just
really
cool, like-
wasn't.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Like,
Please
I
don't
was like,
put me in that category.
I had to, and like, I needed another favor for you a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I was telling someone, I was
Oh,
like,
was Perry the one that poured the concrete in your garage?
yes, yeah, that was
Okay.
it. No, I was like, don't worry, like,
You see the wear and tear
callus,
on these hands.
The lily white hands.
we were trying to figure out a situation we had, and I said, I got a guy, like, I firmly believe
know a guy.
you could like.
Hey.
Contacting you knew people or had connections
Yeah.
like, where you could help me, and like that I don't know how people would get that from us on our show, because like all we
We're
can
not
help
experts
you do
about
is-
anything.
No, we're far from experts, but like I think it's cool that you can affect someone you never. We had a guy email us like 15 topics that he wanted us to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I would say we've had
I
some.
love that. If you have topics, please send us, because like it's not easy to just.
It's the hardest part of our show.
But like, we have a list and we just look at them.
Is
and go,
it though?
I don't know.
It is. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It's not close.
And we have a lot of good topics. It's just like, I don't know if we could do this right now.
Yeah, and stuff like that's cool because you know this. You can see stats on where people are listening, and it's
Yeah.
It blew our mind when we first put out our first episode and started popping up in all these other states that we've
Yeah.
never been to or had any
I
connection
think
to.
we're in all but 2 states.
Yeah, and like it picked up to the
We
point.
have listeners in like New Zealand.
I was gonna say we have regular listeners in Australia too.
and so
I think that might be because of me, but
Thanks, Perry. Oh, you're right. Yes, because we talked to them.
yeah, you talked to Chris and Lil.
Yes, we talked
Yeah.
to them.
And so you see that stuff and you're like, I don't know who these people are. But then once they start sharing it and tagging you or sending you emails and stuff, it like completely blows our mind.
best part is we have
because we
listeners in,
talk
like-
about nothing but absolute nonsense.
We have listeners in like Russia, and I think about.
I don't think those are real.
And I'm like, well, let's just
That's
say
a
they
VPN.
are. Like they are listening
Yeah.
to us, and I'm probably thinking,
Who are
these Americans are the weirdest people
Listen,
in the world.
if I was not a part of our podcast, and I was just a listener, I would listen to it through a VPN as well because I don't want anybody to know.
You need to throw off your FBI agent.
It was really, it
We're
was
on
really
list.
strange.
We're on list because of this podcast. I've Googled stuff that I never in my life thought I'd have to Google.
Just listen to episode 47 if you want to find out.
I told
mean,
my
48.
wife if I die just to delete everything.
delete it,
And
throw it in the
don't-
garbage.
Don't question
Destroy
it.
the computer.
Just go
Destroy
full
it.
Office Space on
And
your
go,
laptop.
just delete everything. She's like, "What are you trying to hide?" I was like, "It's just telling me I'm wrong stuff, and I don't want people to know what I've looked up." So
Ryan, what were you?
Joe was looking up cereal mascot fetishes. And
I mean, that's a real Google.
that's a real good.
What I was going to say is all of this to say, for those that think that sharing show or interacting with shows on social media or something is like lame or like we don't care about, like it means so much to
It really does.
especially creators like us
really does.
who are kind of low level. Like we don't have that many listeners, so it means a lot more when you reach out to people
Speak
like
for
us.
yourself. I have a lot of listeners.
You do.
On your spin-off podcast.
Yeah.
Tell Josh he's right.
It's just Josh is right.
there's no real way we could even advertise this.
Right.
Like, what are we going to put it on? Unless we have another podcast that says to listen to our podcast. But,
Like
there's
parody.
no like website we can get on and be like, listen to Tell Me I'm Wrong. Like,
I mean,
So
yes,
here's-
you can. It's TMIWpod.com. If you head over to there.
So here's the thing. This is kind of where this conversation. I didn't intend for this to happen, but this is kind of where the conversation has gone at this point. And I have expressed this to you all privately. I have talked about the idea publicly as well, but you all were like first draft choices when it came to people that I wanted to have on the network.
I mean,
Right?
you know talent when you see it.
But it,
two-thirds of the talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, we would
who's
be
the
like.
1/3?
You have to take me by proxy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You went ahead and outed yourself.
Unfortunately, we're like drafting Tim Couch. It's just not gonna,
Are you saying Perry's the
not gonna
Cleveland
work.
Browns?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think
wow.
that's more of a statement on Perry. That's me.
Okay, not Tim Couch. Let's Jamarcus Russell.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
You're good. You're good.
Thank you.
It's
So,
us.
thank you.
We,
So
we
instead
are the
of the
problem.
the Browns, he's calling you the Raiders now.
Look,
Well, we had a good run.
Yeah, your leader though.
Yeah.
We are not a sports podcast. Let's sharp turn.
But it was just kind of a natural fit when I was considering and it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time too, was creating. I keep saying the network, like it's real. It's real to me,
Network.
but it will be
still
very
real to
real.
me, damn it.
But it will be very
Just like Santa.
it will be very real before the end of the year. And I say the network meaning our podcast network. And that is something that is very much going to happen. But it's something that I've been thinking about for a very, very long time. And by bringing on people that I, again, believe in, and I believe in what they're doing in their product, it gives me confidence for the success of the network.
Well, I think part of that is if you don't believe in your product, then how can you expect others to believe in
Oh,
your
absolutely.
product?
Yeah.
I mean, that you take.
Did we say that on Patreon or did we say that on this episode that you gotta?
I don't know, Perry. We talk a lot.
We do talk
Well, I
about
mean,
it.
it's like these people, like all these bourbon companies, like if they put out a new edition or a new,
You better be confident in your bourbon. That took a long time.
It's fine.
Well, let's be honest. There's definitely some bourbon companies that are okay with that.
But you could easily say like it's good. It's not as good as I thought it was going to be. Like you're selling yourself in these
Right.
things. It's so hard if you don't wholeheartedly believe. How can you expect someone else to believe it?
You can keep talking. I just had to grab a bottle.
I have a question for you.
Okay,
Do you
sure.
think that
Is this going to be about whether or not your podcast is going to succeed? Because I got bad news for you.
No. The bad news is no, it will not succeed.
Bad news
say,
is
you
I've already paid the Russian hackers.
Yeah. You better hurry up with this network. We're going to run out of topics before you get it launched.
No,
We're just going to be the back catalog.
There's been like an uptick of like bourbon. I don't want to say enthusiasm, but like bourbon popularity due to like I feel like it's becoming more prevalent in movies nowadays. Like I think of like John Wick. I love John Wick, and like everyone knows he strictly drinks bourbon. Like he really likes Woodford and Bullet. Like, I feel like I've seen that a lot more in movies nowadays, where people are like it's become more well known. It's like people are like, I drink bourbon. I'm drinking this and Coke or whatever. Do you feel like there's been more of like a push or an urge for that surge? I guess is what I'm saying.
What do you mean, like? Has there been a bourbon
media?
A what?
A bourbon boom.
A boob boom.
In
A
media,
bourbon
I
boom?
feel like bourbon has become to the forefront more than anything else. Like I feel like it used to be like, oh, vodka or beer, but like now I feel like in a lot of movies I just hear people saying,
You should watch the documentary Neat.
You really should.
I mean, I should, but I haven't.
It's free on Hulu.
Yeah. And
Isn't it?
it's also
That's
Or is it on
that's
Amazon
one
for
of
free?
the
It was
providers
on Hulu
I
for a
pay
while.
for.
I don't know. It
17
might be
of
on
them.
Amazon now. I'm not sure.
But
Shout out
do
to
you
AJ
feel like
Hole,
that's
Hunter.
something that has happened?
Yes, but I don't think that it's a decision that was made. Did your glasses break or what's happening?
No, they are just smeared. And if you know me, I can't podcast when I can't see.
It's actually true.
Naturally.
I brought my glasses and left them on the table the whole
Before
time.
we start
so-
any episode, Josh will clean his glasses.
It is ritual.
This is after he's late to getting on the podcast.
Well, you can't talk though because we went 6 months and you
There was that one
your
episode.
Your computer would
it took
take
me
30
like
minutes.
45 minutes to get on. That's not a problem anymore though.
So,
Anyway,
to answer
so
the question,
I think I understand where you're coming from. Excuse me. I don't think though that it is something that is totally in a vacuum with Hollywood because of the popularity of bourbon. I think it's more reactionary as opposed to revolutionary.
Well, I definitely think bourbon as a whole has become more popular across the country and the world.
Yeah.
But I feel like lately in movies, it has become more of a staple, like more of something that they are putting out more than they ever have. And I didn't know. I'm sure it is reactionary because they're saying this is pop culture. This is what people are liking now. But I didn't know if that maybe pulled and like caused a ripple effect for the bourbon industry or bourbon popularity in general.
I mean, it's hard to give it a definitive chicken or the egg
Okay.
kind of.
Well, I mean, I knew it was probably an
All
abstract.
right, end of conversation.
what Perry's saying is, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
But I truly
didn't
don't.
expect
No.
him to, like, I didn't expect
that's
you to
okay.
be like, well, I have noticed the bourbon sales have spiked recently since
I mean, he
John
could
Wick
tell you
3
that.
came out.
But
But no,
yeah, ever since Makers went public, it's just.
but like, I just didn't know if it would. I don't.
That landed
and I think
really
maybe
well.
I just didn't notice.
That was a real inside baseball
was gonna
joke.
say, we
It
are-
went
we
right
are-
over our heads.
We
I
are
just-
not
I-
even in the same sport.
I
It's
just
like-
figured maybe something about the stock market would have landed there.
No,
but-
we-
Does it have to do with
we make
AMC
jokes-
and GameStop? That's the only two stock
Yeah,
markets
no.
I feel like I know.
I
anything
say
about.
we exclusively make jokes about cereal mascots tickling each other's feet inside of
Oh,
like stirrups.
oh
so-
man, I've gone a full week without thinking about
well,
that image.
unfortunately, you've
Do,
thought about
do we
it
need
again.
to send it again?
No, you don't.
I
No,
don't
you
need to see
absolutely
it
don't.
again.
Please don't,
But-
Ryan. I'm begging you.
and it may also been something I just never noticed when I was younger because bourbon really wasn't like my dad never drank liquor. If I ever saw him drink, it was always a beer. And then when I started drinking bourbon more, I don't really drink liquor. I drink bourbon and beer. But when I started noticing that more, I feel like I picked up on it more. Maybe that was just it. I don't know.
No,
I feel like I've seen it more in pop culture now more than ever.
I think what you are experiencing is that same thing where you learn a word for the first time and then you can't stop hearing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that like as a negative, but like
It's like when you're looking to buy a car and then suddenly you see that car.
you see
everywhere.
that car everywhere. Yeah, it's just
It's-
being
it's-
hyper aware of it, and it's
It's a psychological term called priming.
Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome.
I was waiting for the Lexington
Optimus-
translator for some
Optimus
reason.
priming.
Optimus priming.
All right. Well,
Brought it back immediately. And
Man,
that's why
That's
we
what
keep
you get
Joe
on Tell Me
around.
I'm Wrong. Something legitimate, and then I say something stupid.
yeah, I think that we have definitely brought it back around to the beginning of this conversation at this point. But sincerely, I do enjoy Tell Me I'm Wrong so much. And
I feel like you were really our first fan.
I think I might be.
No.
Mama Ballard.
Mama Ballard.
Mama Ballard. Mama Ballard.
Erica's shaking her head back there, too.
Mama Ballard
is
posts more about Tell Me I'm Wrong than Tell Me I'm Wrong
is
does.
a number one forever. Like,
Yeah.
she will not be unseated.
She's my number one fan
She's
in everything
probably
I
listening
do.
to this episode live, and it's not even being broadcast live. She
Yeah,
just
she
outside
figured it
listening
out.
to it.
She actually hacked into Perry's computer.
She's in Josh's network right now.
I'll say she joined us on the live stream we did with
Yes,
Perry.
yes, she
That
did.
was
She
weird.
listened
That
to
was
our
really
episode
funny,
on
actually.
Tim Bip. She has listened to every episode of our podcast, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I honestly, whenever we mention her, I have to immediately then forget that she listens to everything that we do because otherwise the show would.
Josh did a whole episode where his dad fought my dad, and I think my dad listened to 20 minutes of it.
The thing about Mr. Robinson, he just can't get on board.
He
and that's
literally,
okay.
he literally said,
It's fine.
I said, did you listen? He's like, yeah, I listened to about half of it. I'm hoping to finish it. And it was like 4 days after the episode premiere, and I was like, you ain't finishing this.
Remind me after we're done to tell you a story about spouses not supporting their spouse's creative endeavor. Because I have a really, really specific funny story that makes
Boy, you
absolutely
get
no
real
sense.
uncomfortable in
No,
here.
no, 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 no.
I was like,
It's-
no,
it's
my
not-
wife listens and
No, no, no,
supports
no,
everything
no, no,
I do.
no.
I love
It's-
her very much. She's the perfect woman.
It's not about your wife or mine or anyway. It's just it's
Listeners at home, if you don't know, I'm making a shoveling motion right now.
Perry calling Lucy. Yeah.
I'm not calling Lucy out at all.
This is so uncomfortable.
Here's the thing,
Lucy, when we have our next hangout, you are welcome to come over. I don't know if Perry will be around anymore.
Lucy, I can't explain
If you
to
need
you
to leave Perry at home.
the type of things Perry was telling us before this podcast. Just saying the worst things, and I can't believe that you allow
Josh,
him.
he's never going to invite us back, and this is the only reason we have listeners, just because
look,
of Perry.
Look, we have
the reason we have
That is-
new
that's
listeners.
not true.
every
New
time,
listeners.
every time Perry has brought
That
us
might be
on, we have
true.
intentionally tried to get him to not bring us back, and he keeps insisting on bringing us
Yeah,
back.
it's honestly just bad business sense by Perry. Like we got on his live stream and just bombed it. The first episode, I mean, I don't think we even let him speak for more than like
Nope.
10 minutes.
Nope.
I mean, the fact that we continue to come back,
I
it's-
had to put my foot down and be sincere about some of this, just so that I could establish why it is
and
that
we will
I continue to bring you guys
and
back.
we will continue to fight that sincerity with sarcasm every time.
Fight the power.
So, before we get to tips and bits, I try to bring something to the table that has some kind of specialness or sentimentality when I can. It doesn't always land, or I'm not always able to. But in this case, I got really lucky recently, and I didn't fully clear them out of it.
Congratulations.
But thank you. You might want to backtrack that here in just a second. But so last week, I was in Total Wine, and I was talking with Swan,
With
the
Swan,
co-host.
I was about to
Don't
say.
forget the spirits.
Wonderful
Total Wine
establishment.
and more.
Lexington Translator here. That's a local liquor store.
Total Wine.
that's-
Total Wine
that's
is
a shame.
nationwide.
I know it's not local.
But I had just gotten done asking him to keep a lookout for bottle dates that might have been single barrels, might have been picks that had been dumped on the day that my daughter was born.
This
And
is going to be too sweet. I'm gonna
well,
cry.
here's the thing. As soon as I had said that, I went over and I was like, I'm going to see if they have any Jack Daniel's single barrel proof, which is one of my favorite whiskeys, genuinely. I know it's not Kentucky.
That's fine.
People are going to dunk on it. Whatever.
right.
We had our lengthy discussion about Jack.
We got the Wade twins from Tennessee, so I'm cool with it right now.
This I bought a bunch of these. They're just in 375s. But this was bottled on the day that my last grandparent passed away.
Oh man,
So November 12th was that date.
are you about to open this?
Oh, the
That
cork.
was a squeak.
Man,
It was a little squeaky.
that was a good one.
but-
That was a good one.
I was not ready for
I
that
feel I
sound.
feel so honored.
Yeah, but it's always imperative to me that I get to share something special with people. And this is nothing short of that. So I wanted to.
We joked at the beginning about being in person and stuff, but it genuinely is especially a big moment for us because this is how we kind of hoped this show would be at some point. Is that we'd be in the same room.
We still have to buy new equipment.
We still need some new equipment.
We tried that once; it was awful.
But if we're able to save a little bit of money, it's going to be awesome.
We
It's worth
recorded
it.
2 episodes, and listeners, you'll never hear them.
It's
They sound
sincerely
like garbage.
but it is sincerely worth it to be able to sit down with people and get to be expressive in this way, And I find a lot of joy in it. I find a lot of joy in sharing with other people as well. And so,
No, I understand that. It's the same thing. Like Josh and Ryan will tell you, like at our house, like you come on in, like help yourself to anything in the fridge.
Yeah.
Like what's ours is yours. Like I've never had like a bottle of bourbon or anything in our fridge. I'm like, well, let's not open that. There was one I waited to open to our friends were available, but had you like asked me, like I really want to try that, I probably would have let you have it.
yeah.
And
Joe says this, but his fridge is only full of Miller Lite.
I'm saving this can, bro.
That's funny because I have 1 can left.
Yeah, because I drank it all during WrestleMania.
You did drink. It's okay. No, I mean they know. I've never said no to people. Like come over,
Yeah.
you help yourself.
Absolutely.
that is very true about Joe. He's genuinely one of the most hospitable people
And
that
you
I know.
come over anytime. Like we always want people to feel like they have a place in our
Yeah,
lives. And,
absolutely.
Like I'd love to love on people.
all the best. Hold on, we should get this for posterity.
Cheers, guys.
I missed you, Josh. Oh no.
All the best bourbon enthusiasts that I know are all this way. And
Yeah.
and the people who collect for collecting, I just feel like they miss the point of bourbon. And one of the reasons I
Joe wasn't ready.
appreciate bourbon, and this also goes along with coffee as well, because I feel like the coffee culture is similar. But it's just
That's got a bite to it.
it's just not quite as
My
it's
chest
just
is
not
on
quite
fire. I'm sorry.
trying to have a serious moment here. It's just not quite as good if you're not sharing it.
Absolutely.
Like
Agreed.
what's the point of having the bottle on the shelf if you're not going to bring it down when you have friends around?
I mean, I've got multiples of these now, and that's the only reason I'm keeping it up on the
Right.
shelf.
Oh,
is
no,
for,
exactly.
to save
Exactly.
I'll
it.
say on the flip side, I'm stoked that we are recording this at my home and we haven't even touched my bourbon.
Well, it's like to go off what you said about like sharing and experiences. Like I had a friend in college who never drank. His dad struggled with it, and it was just not something that he was comfortable with because he was afraid it would happen to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we went on his bachelor party, and we all were bourbon drinkers, and he actually was willing in that moment to have his first sip of alcohol ever. It may have been his last sip of alcohol ever, but he drank Makers with us because he was like, in this moment, I feel safe with you. I feel like this community is where I
Absolutely.
can do it. And he's like, I don't know if I'll ever drink it, but he's like, it did make my chest really warm. We hiked in to the gorge when they shut down the national park systems during the government shutdown that time.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I
4
think
years
that's
ago.
illegal.
No, we literally got dropped
illegal.
off in a car and hiked in, and then the car came back and picked us up 2 days later, and it was like 26 degrees, and 2 of the guys did not bring sleeping bags. They slept in hammocks. We had
Well.
7 dudes in a 5-person tent.
Sucks to suck. But
But I do think, I think drinking, period, is people use it as a social experience. But I think when you do bourbon, it's like,
It's just different.
you're proud of what you have. Like, you're proud of your stash, Josh. Like, you didn't have to drink it tonight, but you're like, hey, come on over, pick which one you like, which one is your favorite. Like, you want to show it off. You want people to be like, look at all, like, I know Matt loves that. Like, our friend
Yeah.
Matt has, like,
I gotta meet Matt.
You do need to move.
You think-
that.
Honestly, we
200
need to have
bottles
an
is-
episode, and because he would be good on the podcast too.
Well, not-
Unfortunately, they have thinned out their stock in anticipation of possibly moving.
yeah, he probably at one point had over 200 bottles.
Yeah.
Wait, what's
But-
Matt's last name?
Pew.
Oh, we've talked about him before. Never mind.
Pug.
But he loves, like, he'll do a tasting for us, and he'll like just put like 5 or 6, and he'll let you drink it, and then he'll
he talks about it, or he'll give you
let
suggestions.
you give your idea, and then he'll like after that he'll be like, okay, this is what you drink.
Yeah.
This is why I like it. This is what it's like. And it's like, you could tell that to him, that is just an enjoyable experience to share that with you.
Well, there's a reason I keep mine in this room. So we're recording in my record room, where
The most
I have,
bougie thing ever, my
well,
record room.
Look,
I love it.
I
personally.
love vinyl records, so I've got them all in here. I got my booze in here. We got a couch where we can sit and just chat. And so, that's the reason I put it in here, is I wanted people to be able to come over here and we could enjoy records
say
together.
Next step is we'll just wire the room and go ahead and make this into the studio.
I think I've sat on this. This is the first time I've ever sat
Well, no
on
one
this
ever wants to
couch.
come over and listen to records with
I
me
would
because I'm the only one into it.
I would totally do it,
You
but
know
it's
what?
always like, we'll go outside.
Now that
Okay.
we've been through 2020, I will come over and I will sit and
like,
I will
I would
listen
love
to
to
records.
see. We don't have to record it, but I would love to sit and come and drink bourbon, and we could like just hang out.
I'll bring records over.
Hey, listen, y'all are welcome.
I've got the Moana soundtrack, and it's a banger on vinyl.
I believe that, actually. I'm not, like, unironically, I'm going to believe you on that.
I promise it's
He
better.
doesn't have it on vinyl.
I do.
He does.
My brother got the
You do?
I have the Moana soundtrack on vinyl, and we're getting Little Mermaid next.
My brother got the Soul soundtrack on
Now-
vinyl.
Cracker Barrel sells them on vinyl. Yeah, but that's only. I mean, my daughter saw them one morning at breakfast and was like, she loves Moana, so
Cracker Barrel is just Rainforest Cafe for old people.
pretty much.
Oh man, that's a good take. I like that take.
But if you're on Weight Watchers, Cracker Barrel has a 25th
Is that your tips and bits this week?
Tips
Is
and
Weight
bits.
Watchers?
The best-
Cracker Rail vinyl.
The best burger to go to if you're on Weight Watchers is Culver's, hands down. But Cracker Barrel.
No, wait, time out.
Oh, whoa, what?
Look, what?
You can eat a kids meal cheeseburger at Culver's
Okay,
with
there-
everything
okay,
on it.
all right, all
with
right,
everything
gotcha.
on it. Cheese, lettuce, tomato, mayo, all of it, and fries. And it's like
I'll say I worked at a Culver's for like
think
4
it's
years
nine-
in high school,
I think it's
in
19
college,
points.
and there's nothing healthy there.
it's 19 points.
Well, apparently, if you're on
Listen.
Weight Watchers, the kid's cheeseburger is.
It's delicious.
Whoever started Weight Watchers just loved cheese curds and was like, these are 2 points.
I look forward to it most Fridays because that's when we usually go.
Where are we putting the custard in now?
Listen, when I worked there, they put it in all sorts of vessels. Hands.
Whoa!
I hate the word vessel.
The best
Never
part
mind.
is
The joke didn't land.
the
We'll come
turtle
back around.
sundae is like 49 points for one, and I get 32
yeah.
points for the day.
Yeah.
Is that how that works? Now, you could pull what I don't know if this would count as 1 set of points or 2 sets of points, but there's this woman one time who, when I was worked at Culver's, she ordered the flavor of the day. And if you've never been to Culver's, there's always a flavor of the day.
Yes.
It's typically just a custard with different types of candy in it.
Yeah.
And she ate the whole thing and then brought it back and said there was not enough toppings in it and demanded another one. So does that count as like
No, I think that
5
counts as-
points or
I think
10
that's
points
10
for the second
points.
serving? Okay. That place.
Josh, what are your tips and or bits this week?
Let's see. My tips
As you
and
look
bits.
through your record collection.
I'll be honest, I've looked at your record collection this whole time. I've known one person on that wall.
That is the least surprising thing that you could have told me because I listen to weird music.
I mean, I know the names, but I couldn't tell you a song by most of them.
I don't know if I know
So,
any of these.
so there's not a whole
I
lot
definitely
of new stuff that I'm very into for tips and bits. Lately, I've been rewatching a lot of old stuff that I tend
Mine's
to
going to
enjoy.
be the same.
That's
So
okay. Go for it.
me and Erica, one of the best things on earth is Sunday morning watching Discovery Plus and enjoying some 90 Day Fiance single life, followed by episodes of Fixer Upper until we want to pass out with coffee. It is the best thing on earth, and I absolutely love it.
I was a little disappointed you didn't say Anthony Bourdain.
Well,
in
I
any
love Anthony
capacity.
Bourdain. Lately, we have been on Ugly Delicious with David Chang, one of my
Okay.
favorite shows. If you enjoy any of Anthony Bourdain's work
Yeah.
on No Reservations or Parts Unknown,
Yeah.
then you will love Ugly Delicious. Watch some Chef's Table. I'm a big fan of Sean Brock. He's a really
Sean
talented chef
Brock.
that lives in Nashville.
Can we talk about Sean Brock for a second?
I would love to talk about Sean Brock.
So, Sean Brock is one of those people where I admire him not just for the work that he has put into his professional career, but also his personal life. Mm-hmm. And
His Chef's Table episode's really good.
It's one of the best.
and this is coming from somebody who regularly drinks bourbon, but for somebody to recognize that they cannot go forward in the way that they have been and to take it seriously in that way is really empowering. And, bourbon is a part of my lifestyle and I'm responsible with it, but it is also, I find it highly,
Therapeutic.
God,
Volatile.
No. You guys are thinking the wrong thing.
Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Well, I feel like we couldn't tell which direction.
Yeah,
No,
I was
I was-
I'll hit the other end of the spectrum here.
Not influential, but that kind of path that somebody
Yeah.
can recognize their shortcomings and then overcome them.
I'll say that's something
in a
that
way
I love
he
about
does.
him and David Chang, because they're both very
Yeah.
similar in that aspect.
Yeah.
Because what I love is that the thing about food and being a foodie, like I have an obsessive personality. So when I like something, I really like it. So that's why I have so many vinyl records. That's why I'm very into cooking and
We like podcasts so much. We
food culture,
started one.
podcasts. Exactly. And so I what I really respect about David Chang and Sean Brock both is that they're like just watching them talk about food, because in Sean Brock's Chef's Table, he talks about like these ancient seeds that have hadn't been grown in the South for a long time, and it's just like listening to someone talk about that and care about something so much is so cool to me.
That's actually the
But I
reason.
absolutely love it.
That's actually the reason I think I like podcasts, and why I tell people, I tell everyone that I think everybody has a podcast in them, because there is something.
Unfortunately, ours was the one we.
Unfortunately, the one that we found was just super weird. But I genuinely believe that everybody has that thing that they care about, like like Sean Brock, like really any of the Chef's Table. Watching a chef at that level talk about food,
Absolutely.
it just makes you appreciate life.
I just wish there was one thing in my life that I knew that much about or was that passionate about.
And that's what I'm saying is like I think everybody has that somewhere.
Yeah.
And they can everybody can find that thing that they talk about and light up.
Well, and I think that's what's cool about your podcast and just bourbon culture in general, or anything like that has like there's a dedicated niche that exists just for this thing. We don't fit into any of those, unfortunately. But there's a dedicated.
That was our
You
mistake.
could argue that would make you more successful, though.
This is true.
Exactly.
But there's a dedicated.
Also
niche
makes it
for
harder for people to find us.
Yeah, this is
That's
very
also
true.
true.
But I just always think that's so cool that people care so much about something, that they're that invested in it, that they want to listen to a podcast about it or read about it or learn about it. It's just the coolest thing.
Sean Brock, and this is an idea that I've also been kicking around for a while, doing a series of interviews, not necessarily about bourbon, but just about creators that I love. He is somebody that I would absolutely love to interview.
I would be incredibly jealous if you pulled that off.
I mean, you're more than welcome to sit in on
I
the
will
interview.
gladly sit in.
I
I don't always talk about cereal cereal mascots who are secret
He can
freaks.
be a civilized
I can
person.
be a civilized adult.
I would absolutely invite you to be a part of that if it comes to fruition. But I've been kicking this idea around for the past couple of months that I'd like to do. Last year I did the ISO sessions, which was just talking with people that were friends of the podcast and catching up with them, making sure they were doing okay at the beginning of the pandemic. And now I would kind of like to expand that and talk to, like I said, creators that I find really compelling and that I
That's so flattering, Perry.
I'm
Thanks.
saying, I really appreciate you saying that about us.
Ryan,
The
what
fact
are
that
your
you're on
tips or
time.
bits this week?
We were the only ones that were free tonight.
and we
Even
were,
Lucy was busy.
oh man, below, man, we're just low on
My
the list.
dad didn't even say yes.
I was going to say last week was David. So, well, anybody who listens to our show knows that I'm a huge fan of D&D, and I've been rewatching my favorite D&D show, and that is Critical Role. It is a bunch of voice actors that play D&D, and their current campaign is something that I'm super invested in, and it's honestly like. I don't get to talk about it that much because there aren't that many. It's kind of a widespread fandom of people that have found them on YouTube, and then now they're like this huge company and they're making an animated show. But if you're interested at all in really just I mean, it's a D&D show, but it's all of these incredible actors that are playing the show. It's like the ideal D&D situation because they're all voice actors.
D&D is the perfect gateway to making your own podcast.
Genuinely, that's how we started.
It goes true crime, comedy, D&D.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
And that's not on like level of quality. It's just volume.
It is. It is. The actual play podcast, there's getting to be too many. But if I am genuinely like, it is probably the thing that I am most invested in as a fan is Critical Role.
Yeah.
And it's just something I don't get to talk about that much. So I genuinely encourage people go and check out a couple episodes. If I totally get it is not everybody's thing. I mean, every episode is like 3.5 hours long. And a lot of it is like gameplay, like it is an actual play show, but their second campaign is super compelling. The DM is one of the best storytellers and most creative minds I have ever seen. His name is Matt Mercer, and he's just incredible. And the way that he can control an entire world in his brain is incredible.
Well, it's, I guess my hobbies or my likes, whatever I do, is I'm really into woodworking. I really enjoy that, and in part of that, I really like content creation. I'm currently rebuilding my garage in the hopes that I can produce my own woodworking like videos to put on YouTube and content creation through that.
That's really cool.
But like,
we should
Joe being his own editor will be a sight to see. I can't wait.
I actually, Bo will vouch, I did weekly videos for crew in college every week for 3 years.
Do you think if I'm genuinely asking you this because I am 100% interested. Do you think that we would be able to build a guitar together?
An acoustic guitar?
No.
Yes. If you want to build an electric guitar, 100%. If you want to build an acoustic guitar, like a real acoustic, they're so hard to build.
But do you have experience with building electric guitars?
So this year for Christmas, before we moved and I had to lose my shop and to rebuild my garage, the goal was for Rachel to buy components for me to build my own guitar.
All right, so that's going to happen.
All right,
So,
no
but
kidding.
It's going to be a minute because my shop is just a bare floor right now. Basically.
That's okay. I have like
one plug.
That's the name of Joe's YouTube woodworking show. It's going to be a minute.
Pretty much. But no, there's a lot of guys.
I would watch this. This is going to be the seminal series of this show.
There's a lot of guys I follow on YouTube they all make the same projects, but they all do it in such different ways that I feel like I've connected with these guys and girls. Like there's multiple girls I watch that a lot of them have made literally the same projects. Like they've made cutting boards or they've made coffee tables or beds. But it's like one guy, he's really he wants to add pops of color. He was a graphic designer and he's really into art. So he tries to incorporate art into these woodworkings. Like one girl is like, I wanted to make this to where my kids can watch my videos and make these projects. And there's one guy who's cool. Like, I love smart things. So
it's a niche within a niche.
So it's like, I feel like I pick so much up from each one of these people who watch. And like you mentioned D&D, like I really got into podcasting from the McElroys.
Yeah.
Like I listen to Bam Bam. I don't as much anymore as I used to. Bam Bam, my brother and me.
Oh, okay.
And then, but like,
it sounded like you stumbled over a word and you just decided
that's their acronym. Like,
I get it.
But the one that really got me is something they call the Adventure Zone, and the first
Also
series,
D&D. Yeah,
it's called the Bureau of Balance, and it's 70 episodes, and it's a story. Most of them about 2 hours long. I've listened to that story through 4 times.
Yeah. Same.
Really?
Same.
4 times. It is
I've
the
also bought the
holy
graphic
crap.
novels.
I have all the graphic
I have
novels.
them all in my office.
Griffin McElroy is to me the single greatest storyteller. He pulled stuff from episode 2 and had it pay off in episode 68.
He and Matt Mercer are on a level of like creative that it's just hard to comprehend.
My wife has no desire to ever play D&D, but I told her I think if you give this
but I want to so badly.
If you give this a chance,
Oh, you're going to play D&D.
Oh, you're
I know
Play
I'm
D&D
going
with
to.
us.
I know
That's
I'm going
happening.
to.
if you give this a chance, I legitimately think she would enjoy the story because the
Yeah.
story is
I actually think-
so incredible.
I
actually think-
actually have a piece of art in my record room from that podcast.
That is a quote. That is a quote from that show. I think anybody who wants to get into D&D, the Adventure Zone is such a great starting
Start
point.
with Bureau,
because
not
it's not
graduation.
super hardcore. Like Critical Role is hardcore D&D.
Sure.
Like it is by the book, and Matt Mercer is like a true DM. Griffin is more telling a story, and it's a lot more narrative based, and they don't really focus as much on the rules, but it
Right.
is so much easier to follow.
The first 7 or 8 episodes, when
They're a
they do
little
Here
rough.
There Be Urblins, they're playing more close to the game, and they're trying to figure out how to do a podcast based on this. But after that, I mean, they fight on a train. They have a Mad Max style fight where they fight big racers in the desert.
It's my favorite one.
They
Insane.
fight in a spaceship that's turned into a pink diamond. I mean, they do all these things, but they make them, every one of them, you never question that it's real in this area.
And I've had enough bourbon to admit this, that is the only podcast I've ever listened to where I cried during an episode.
I've listened to it 4 times. I've cried every time.
There are
I've
3
listened to
episodes.
it
I
4
always
times. I know what's happening. I've cried every
There
time.
are 3 episodes, and we could probably talk about them, but we won't. There are 3 episodes.
Yeah, we
in
gotta
that-
wrap this up
There are
soon.
3 episodes that I always cry in, and I've actually cried at Critical Role as well. It's just good.
Man.
It's just
But,
people
like-
creating
And
compelling
this
stories.
is
He
Dungeons
has-
and Dragons.
Dungeons
Oh, yeah.
and Dragons.
He has wrote a movie. This could be a movie like
It
a Lord
is.
of the Rings by like 3
Honestly,
part
probably more like
series.
HBO series. Like it is.
Yeah,
it
but I'm
is
saying like
awesome.
it's Game of Thrones. You
Yeah.
have what Game of Thrones is.
Yeah.
You have that, and that's what they built.
And I mean, a lot of it's comedy, but it's also
Oh,
like
it's incredibly
this beautiful
funny.
story.
And it's like it's 3 brothers and their dad, and that's who plays.
Anyway, sorry, that was a long tits of
No.
bits.
It's okay, but like that kind of started getting me thinking about it. Like that's what I love so much about a show like Ted Lasso.
yes.
That was my favorite show of 2020.
It's the best show. And
I think hands down it might be the
still
best
haven't
show.
seen it.
you need to watch
I
it
know.
because
Never seen
I've
it.
watched the scene where they're in the pub playing darts.
Yes.
And if you watch Ted Lasso, you know what scene I'm talking about. I've watched that on YouTube, like, not joking, 10 to 15 times. It gives me chills every time.
Yep.
Wow.
It's so good.
I need to
Jason
listen to
Sudeikis is such an underrated actor, performer.
He needed a chance, and I feel like this show has really given him
See,
a
I,
platform.
I don't get into TV shows like that. Like I don't. There's very few TV shows I feel
should.
like I've ever invested in.
Same.
But there's a lot of movies out there that like okay. So Black Hawk Down is not a person, but like that movie will sit down and make me cry. Like, every time I watch it, if I sit down and watch it, the love that those men have for each other, it will bring tears to my eyes. Like. I actually won an award as the 2005 Youth Leader of the Year for Fayette County by talking about how much I love Black Hawk Down and
Wow.
what that
We're
movie.
going to need more details on that later.
I will.
That's for a tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's
So-
a tell me I'm wrong
But
story.
like there are certain movies that it's like I see and it's like I want like that's how I want my life to like the love like guys have for
Air
each other. All that like but like
Honey, I
there's,
Shrunk the Kids.
there's movies that I can just go to that place and like I immediately feel that emotion.
Yeah.
And that's how like you talked about your thing like that's me as movies. Like I still want to do like I had an episode idea where I give you my entire list of movies.
Yeah, we're going to do this.
And you all have to pick a movie you can't understand why I have it and debate why I have it, and then I'll give you the
Joe's
real
got a
reason.
very bizarre collection of
That would be a
DVDs.
really,
I like that idea.
At
Then.
one point, I
be a
had
really
around
good-
400 DVDs.
that'd be a really good on location recording when we
Yes.
can do it.
You can do that.
When we have equipment.
Perry can come over and do it with us and bring his equipment.
Thanks, Perry.
Hire me out.
Seriously,
for
you
the
can
hour.
come over because I have so many DVDs. I don't think you guys will all be able to. You'll all pick something separate and be like, "Why do you have this, Joe?"
Seen it. Seen it.
And I've seen every one of them.
So I've got 2 tips and bits this week. I gave myself the ridiculous yet immeasurably enjoyable task of completing the original Legend of Zelda this week.
In a week,
I just mean I started this
Okay.
week. I would like to finish it
I was
by
about
the
to
end of this
say-
week.
I was like, you really struck a nerve there.
No.
you are not seeing
I-
your wife or daughter. Then
I am about to throw my head through the wall.
is this on the original Nintendo or Super E NES?
It's using the emulator for the original Nintendo,
This
but
is
it's on
the
my Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
But-
ready for Ocarina of Time to come out on the Switch, and I'll never see anybody.
Quick tips and bits shout out if you want to listen to a whole series of podcasts about which Legend of Zelda is the best one. Go listen to the Besties pod.
Ocarina of Time. It's Ocarina of Time.
Griffin
Majora's Mask is better.
This is This is a debate that they have.
Well,
and
actually, I
it's
think
Griffin
Breath
McElroy
of the
and
Wild
Justin
is probably
McElroy,
better than all of them,
and they talk about it. So Besties pod, go check it out.
I have no opinion.
Fair enough. Well,
Never played any.
I'm killing myself trying to finish this game,
Don't
and
do that.
it's a game. I'm not going to, but it's a game that came out in the '80s, and I have it's that completionist nature
Yeah,
within
that's
me
me.
where it's
That's
like
me.
I've got to get through all these games eventually, and I just kind of said, well, we're gonna start from the first one. We're gonna work our way through it.
That's how I
And-
felt about all the Batman games. I've had to 100 every one of them.
And those are
like
massive.
the Arkham games.
I would
or
say those are
okay. I
massive
thought you
games.
meant like
Those
the
are like-
original
No,
like
I've
arcade Batman
100
games.
every
or-
Arkham game.
Those are like 85-hour games.
Yeah.
I've 100%ed everyone, and Spider-Man.
I'm
Spider-Man PS4?
I just replayed Spider-Man. I just 100'd
I've
a
beat it
second
3
time.
times.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking to sell your PS4 to support your purchase of a PS5,
I will not be buying a PS5 probably.
I think if I asked for another
Anytime soon.
console, my wife would
never
give me the
mind.
face. I would like a PS5.
Do you
but
want one?
I don't worry about all my games.
I would be okay with a PS4. I don't feel the need for a PS5,
Same.
but
Yet.
all
there
right,
it is.
that's a conversation for a different time. Anyway,
I want to play Miles Morales. I still want to.
Yeah,
I do.
looks so
I do
good.
too. I really want
it's
I
to.
also
only-
want to play the new Horizon Zero
The
Dawn.
campaign's only 9 hours, which doesn't
Really?
Yeah, it's not
That's
long.
disappointing.
It doesn't bother me.
I love a
as
lot
long
of
as it's got a good
I
story.
will beat that in like a weekend.
I mean, I don't disagree, but as long as it has a good story and good gameplay,
I need it to last a while.
We've lost Josh.
I'm lost.
I'll bring you back though. You more than likely know this guy, and I have started to listen to a lot of what he does just purely out of fascination with how great of a musician he is. Mark Rubier.
Yes. Yes.
I have been listening to him nonstop recently, and it's not even a thing where I can be like, "Oh, you know this one song," or that one moment.
It's a full body of work.
It really is, and I want to go see him so bad.
He
are
is
you about
playing
to?
at Bonnaroo.
I thought you were about to tell me you got
this
tickets
fall.
to see him in
Please don't
Columbus.
go to Bonnaroo.
No, I
this
did
year.
not.
That's what we need to do. We need to go to Bonnaroo
No.
as a
and do an
podcast.
episode.
That would be the worst
just-
podcast episode of all
Just
time.
us standing on the edge of Bonnaroo, watching everybody and
No,
commenting.
here's how that podcast would go. Josh would be talking, and Joe and I would be like, "Who's that?"
Josh should be like talking to like, I think that dude's wearing a thong. Yep, he's wearing a thong.
Oh, that's Joe.
Yeah. I feel so free, guys.
Did Joe eat that edible? Dang it.
Again.
It's day 3.
No, but who he's talking about, you all would appreciate. You just need to go
Doubtful.
on YouTube. I promise. Just go on YouTube, search for him, and watch any selection of his videos.
MarcRebillet.
I mean, you're gonna have to send that to me.
That's totally fine. But
I'm
if
a
anybody's
visual
listening
learner.
and they
just
would
a shirtless man playing a keyboard and screaming.
Is that really what he is?
it's,
more or
it's
less.
much more
I don't,
finesse.
I
than
don't
that.
want that.
No. It's you're
want it.
ruining my tips and bits, Josh. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
But he is extremely musically talented, and he loops songs and he will just improv lyrics over top of them. But
Okay,
He
I'll,
is-
I'll give it a shot.
Ryan, do you like the funk?
The whole funk, nothing but the funk.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just the funk.
Do you like Marshall
You know what I'm
Erickson?
talking about. Just a little funk.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't really know.
Well, you should determine if you like some funk or not, and check
Okay.
out.
I'm not a
check
huge
out
funk
his work.
fan.
you're gonna change your mind.
Okay, I'll give it a
I
shot.
promise.
I'll give anything a shot.
Anyway, I've got a baby. I've got to go get
Yeah, I
home.
was gonna say.
Oh,
I think,
yeah.
I
I
just
think
got
we
my
all need to wrap
bedtime
up.
reminder.
Yeah,
Man, y'all got children. I'm hanging out in my own house, no children, nothing.
Do not have children. do not have children.
What?
Or do. It's a beautiful thing.
I do.
No, I
do.
said I do not have children.
And she will wake up.
I thought
bright.
you said do not have children.
No,
I
That's
was
what
like,
I heard too.
Well, it sounds
do
like
whatever you want.
You screwed
I
up,
do
Ryan.
not currently have children.
Whoops.
No, I'm excited about that.
One stuck past the defense.
Nope.
Hey, where can people find you all or the show itself on social media?
Why did you both look
All
at
right.
me?
Well, I will do it. You guys can find us at TMIW Pod at all the social medias, TMIWpod.com. Send us all of your concerns and comments to TMIWpod@gmail.com.
Leading off with concerns.
I mean, that's
That's usually what we
I mean,
get.
That's fair.
If we're
That's
talking about
entirely
volume,
fair.
Are you guys
here,
okay? That's the
Yeah.
one question we get.
especially after our last couple of weeks, we would be okay with
This
that
was a
question.
Josh episode, wasn't it? It's like
You can,
That's the title of the email. The subject.
that actually might be the next title of our episode. This is a Josh episode.
We should just do a debate where you all try to come up with a topic I would pick
Yes!
for the show.
What is truly going through
Wait,
Josh's
cut
mind?
this out because we want that.
I don't know. I think I kind of want to leave it in.
Yeah, we're giving Perry all our good ideas. I'll give myself a shout out. Find me at Rye Store on Twitter and Instagram.
I think that's what he was asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So
Personal plugs as well.
Find me. I don't post very much, but when I do, it's witty and fun.
You can find me
That's
at
a
Josh.
huge. You just like really set your bar high.
Yeah.
It's witty and fun when
I
I
don't
don't
po-
post, but it always is when I
I don't
do.
post often, but when I do, it's good.
It's good. You can find me at Josh Ballard 13. I'm not because I'm a Taylor Swift fan. That's not why I picked 13. I always get asked that.
But you are.
I am. I am
He's
a
a
Swiftie.
Swiftie.
But Josh Ballard 13 on pretty much all the social media. So follow me. I also do not post super often, but when I do, it is witty and fun. Or making fun of myself for the things I was posting on Facebook 12
Really?
years ago when my high
At
school
least go
girlfriend broke
follow
up
him
with
just
me.
for this week's tweet.
Yeah, that's really all you need to do. Joe, why don't you tell people the complicated
Hey, what's
combination
your
of
Instagram,
letters and
Joe?
numbers?
Hey, Joe, what's your Instagram?
My Instagram that I created like 10 years ago, what it was, is JOE. Mm-hmm.
That's Joe.
128723.
6
Joe, what-
numbers.
I'm gonna change that, but here's the real deal.
No, you're not.
Here's the real deal.
He's
No,
gonna
actually,
add
we said
numbers
this
to
week
it.
I'm gonna start slowly adding numbers to it and see how long I can get it.
40
you can
characters or
also,
less.
I am gonna start trying to revamp my like woodworking and everything. So if you want to find that, check that out. Big Blue Wood Shop is that what that is? That's my Twitter handle. That's what my Instagram for my woodworking site is. Big Blue Wood Shop. Check that out. I'm gonna start really posting there because my shop is finally starting ready to get built up.
Joe's
and
mentioned this before.
I'll say,
but
damn, Joe's going solo on us.
He's also a very, very talented woodworker.
He is.
I mean, I think I'm okay.
I have a beautiful cutting board just over there in my kitchen from Joe.
I'm probably going to commission some shelves for
I think I'm
my
okay.
daughter.
So
And I
Well,
want to
if
get
it's anything like the
on
shelves he built,
guitar.
if it's anything like the shelves he built for his daughters,
it'll be here when
yeah,
she's 3.
Yeah,
It's just a good joke. It's just
it
a
is.
good joke.
I am slow, and I think part of that is I'm just slow. But I did build a shelf for her room that looks like a tree branch because her room is based
looks
on the
great.
book. The
and it
Giving
took
Tree.
about the same amount of time as how long it takes a tree to grow.
It
so
probably
you
took
were-
longer for me.
Right on
The tree probably would have grown faster.
Well, if you want to follow me, I am at PRitter1492 on all social media channels. If you want to follow the show itself, it's at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can leave us a 5-star rating and review on the iTunes podcast app. You can find all of our apparel and merchandise at bourbonshop.threadless.com. Send your questions or comments or concerns. See, I put concerns last because I feel
Yeah.
like that's the thing we should be
We
talking
were
about.
mostly
the least.
impressed by the trance you just went in. To,
We
to
all were
cycle
looking.
through all
We
that.
all were looking at
I've
each
done
other
this-
like, "Wow."
I've done this for
We should
175
really tighten
episodes.
this
You
up.
do that in front of him.
Yeah.
He's got the mirror at home, and he's got a picture of what he's supposed to say in front of it. And if he nails it, he crumbles the picture and stares in the mirror at himself.
I've got my own dartboard with my
s-
face
if
on
he,
it.
if he reads it perfectly 3 times in a row, and a mirror swan just shows up behind him.
And then he says, "And doggone it, people like you."
You can send them to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. You can send your voicemails to our infrequent barrel ring segment, 859-428-8253. We love listening to those.
We don't want people to do that on our show.
No, you absolutely do. They are so much fun.
Well, look forward because you just gave that number to these 3 people. So look forward to that
I'm
voicemail.
scared of the voicemails people would leave us.
Uh,
I don't want
Jeez.
voicemails talking about your serial freak.
I'm apparently also on, not apparently, I am on TikTok at My Bourbon Pod as well. I've posted 2 TikToks that are of my daughter.
You should really get on that TikTok.
I don't know how TikTok works.
I'm working on it.
I'm starting to love TikTok.
It's good stuff.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I like Instagram Reels.
That's
Okay.
TikTok.
We're not talking to you
That's
anymore.
the same. That's the same thing.
I don't know how you search on it, though,
Basically,
but I like it.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/Listen to My Bourbon Podcast. I go live every Thursday night.
We might be
got
there
some,
sometimes.
but there's a good chance.
I don't
and
know.
Maybe soon.
I don't know.
We'll see how Perry feels after our episode comes out tomorrow.
I don't know. I think this has been a great
He hasn't
episode so
edited
far.
this yet, so he may change his mind after he edits this.
Also, go support Perry on Patreon and
Do you want me to redo that for you, or
Yeah, who's Paige Perry?
all right. Go check out Perry Ritter on Patreon.
I think you probably going to
Especially-
search "This is my bourbon pod."
I think that.
Perry,
he'll
Perry,
say
what would
all-
your personal Patreon
Okay,
be?
y'all,
Wow.
he will say all the
What
stuff.
would your
I'm
only,
just trying to
what
give
would you
him a
put on your
plug.
Patreon and or OnlyFans, Perry?
Just go ahead and plug your own.
I was about to plug my own, but you kind of stepped over me.
I was
OnlyFans?
just
It's
trying
fine.
to give you an endorsement.
People
All right,
do
fine.
do that on OnlyFans. I think they plug
I'm
their own.
aware, yeah, but you can find all of our exclusive content and
dragging
help
it out.
support the show at patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast for as little as $1 a month. For as little as $5 a month, you can get all of the bonus content, including the pregame chats. I'm trying to ignore you, Ryan, right now. As you dance. Yeah.
That's how you became a
All
dad.
right, patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. This is time for us to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you to Tell Me I'm Wrong for hanging out with us this week. Okay. All right. I almost said you're welcome back to that for some reason.
Review.
All right, we'll see you all next week. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.